And welcome to the Nintendo Switch Online Game Club, the show where we play through the games available on Nintendo's various NSO apps completely at random. I'm your host, Derrick, and in this episode, I'm joined by Josh Jepson, YouTuber, streamer, and all-around awesome guy. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
I am glad to hear that. And Rebecca Stone, the Zelda fan who's back once again to test her fate against the wheel. How you doing, Rebecca?
I wasn't tortured enough the first time, so I came back to just do it all over again.
It had to happen. You needed a redemption arc after Sword of Vermilion. Although you kind of were okay with Sword of Vermilion, if I remember correctly.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
It definitely was something.
Yeah, I remember when you were playing that. I was there while you were playing it.
And you're like, what the heck is this? And as you're both likely aware, there are now over 200 games across the NSO, and while some are widely known like Super Mario Bros. And Zelda, there are some odd picks that could be hidden gems. We honestly don't know. So what we'll be doing is entering all those games into a randomizer, picking one, and then giving our initial thoughts. And this week, the Wheel of Games has chosen Fire and Ice for the NES. What do you guys know about Fire and Ice? I know from the reaction to the last episode that you guys were like,
Absolutely nothing until I looked up the Wikipedia article just now, and it's Solomon's Key, but like the prequel. And I'm down for that, honestly. Like, this is the kind of game that I like. I like a good puzzle game, so I'm excited to try it out.
What about you, Rebecca?
NES games scare me because they're hard, and hard games scare me, and puzzle games scare me, but I'm gonna do the same thing and just keep an open mind, and
oh man,
it could be cool.
We should have played this around Halloween with everything that's scaring you. My God. I'm in the same boat as you two. I knew nothing about this. I saw Fire and Ice on the list. I'm like, all right, that's a thing. But yeah, I had no idea when we went to the Wikipedia to look this thing up. It actually is called Solomon's Key 2 in Europe. Proper box art and everything. Really cute box art, honestly. But for some reason, they decided to call it Fire and Ice. I don't know why.
I guess we'll find out.
I guess it's sort of a hint to probably the gimmick, as the chat is saying right now, Gore and Amber. But I played a little bit of Solomon's Key thanks to a stream I was doing where I just had a chance to play random games off there, and Solomon's Key was one of the ones picked. And it was the first time I ever played that, and I actually ended up enjoying it. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. I kind of dig this. So hopefully this one is even better. I mean, it's kind of a late era NES game, 1992 in Japan, 93 in the States and Europe.
I'm like 80% sure.
Nintendo was already out by then.
I'm like 80% sure that Solomon's Key was on the Wii Virtual Console, and I think that's where I played it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did not get too brave with the Virtual Console just because, it's $10, $5. You're like, is this good? You look at the reviews like, no.
Yeah, I went on a binge of a bunch of stuff I never heard of on the Wii Virtual Console, and I think Solomon's Key might have been one of them, but I could be wrong.
I mean, it's entirely possible. Let's see. We have a little bit of a setup for like the storyline here on the Wikipedia page, where it's just like takes place on there's a story. It takes place on Coolmint Island, an island made of ice and home to the winter fairies. An evil wizard begins sending flame monsters to attack and melt the island. So you're an apprentice wizard summoned in order to defend them and granting the use of ice magic to help extinguish the flame monsters. So there's our setup.
Cool. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah, what I remember of Solomon's Key is it's kind of RPG-ish in its puzzle mechanics. Like it has that whole setup of like wizards and monsters and stuff like that as you're trying to solve puzzles. Very much in a 2D.
The main character looks really cool. She looks like a witch version of Link.
Yeah, kinda. And looking at the one screenshot they have here, that's pretty solid graph. That's a really good sprite for the main character.
That's what I'm doing right now is I'm just looking on Google Images at a bunch of screenshots, and it just looks charming.
Yeah. I think we might be into something kind of fun. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but it sounds like a fun one. It's actually a pretty lengthy game too. There are 10 worlds, 10 stages to complete, and obviously we just try to get through as many as we can within the week. So I have a feeling we'll have a sense of how the game is
Yeah.
without beating all 100 stages, so we don't need to worry too much about that. But it's also impressive because according to this also, once you beat the game, you're actually given a cheat code that unlocks a sound test option and 50 additional stages. So there's a lot of content here.
Ooh.
That's a
That's like a
lot.
significant like completion bonus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Wow. There is a lot here. The game also features a stage editor allowing players to design their own
What?
stages and puzzles. However,
No.
only the Japanese version allows them to save their created stages. But yeah, you have a
Oh, why would you make a stage and not be able to save it?
that's really dumb. I guess technically you get to save it because now it's on NSO now, so you can use the save functionality.
Oh yeah.
So we have a way
Oh.
around that, but yeah,
That feels like ahead of its time.
it's
a
very
stage
Yeah,
editor.
right?
time. Huh?
Like what other games had a stage editor on the NES? Just Excite Bike.
I think so.
I don't even know if Excite Bike did.
I don't know.
That's wild.
I have no idea.
That's cool.
I'm trying to
That's
think.
cool.
Yeah. Honestly, the more I hear about this, the more I'm kind of excited.
Yeah,
I'm
right? Me
excited
too.
Yeah, it's maybe one of those hidden gems that I always kind of want to come across when it comes to this show to see what we find. But
We love to see it.
yeah. That said, I mean, with us not having any real history behind it, and I don't want to read too much into the wiki to spoil what we're kind of in for. But shall we get to it?
Let's do it.
All right.
Do it.
We'll be back in a week with our thoughts on Fire and Ice. And we're back after a week of playing Fire and Ice for the NES, and it is quite the puzzler. But, Rebecca, I know you're not exactly a huge puzzle fan, so I wanted to start with you. What did you think of Fire and Ice?
Not a big puzzle. So the reason why I'm not a huge fan of puzzle games is just because I'm not good at them, and this one was really no different. I feel like this isn't even a hard puzzle game. It's just my brain, like after the beginning levels, like it's like I need to like either look this up or like try it a couple times. But I was really surprised in the beginning when I turned it on to start playing it, and it opened up like the way that kind of a really story-based action type game or RPG would start. Like I felt really invested in like the world that they set up. It seemed like it was this, oh my gosh, this quaint, kingdom taken over. And then I like the premise of how it's kind of told like a story, like a grandmother is telling the story to her grandkids, like as a bedtime story. Kind of reminded me of I don't know if you've played the indie game Blossom Tales.
Yes.
But that's like exactly the same. And now I'm wondering if they got that exactly from Fire and Ice, because
maybe.
it's set up
Yeah.
exactly. They've set it up exactly the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
I had a good impression with it.
That's good. What about you, Josh?
On the opposite end of the spectrum, I love puzzle games. I was surprised at how much they got out of basically the one mechanic that they use with the ice, and you're dropping little ice blocks, and you can push ice blocks, and you have to hit fire and all this stuff. I think that they did a lot with it. I didn't finish the game, but I played enough to like kind of get the gist of what it was like. And yeah, it's really fun. I would play the whole thing. I really would. And it seems like there's a lot of content too. There's a lot of puzzles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it actually. I mean, it was one of the better NES games that I've played. because you go back that far, and I feel like there's a lot of NES games that they're just trying to figure it out at that point, and I feel like this nails it. I really do. I enjoyed just the movement, and I felt like the mechanic was solid. They had a really good idea going. Yeah, this is this is a prequel technically to Solomon's Key.
Yes. And in other countries, it
So
was called Solomon's Key 2, which
it's confusing.
why didn't they call it that here? Like you have the
Yeah.
box art, it's like, it's trying to make it all cool because of the fire and ice thing, but I see fire and ice, I'm like, that looks lame.
Yeah,
That-
yeah.
Even
Like,
if they made it the subtitle, Solomon Keys 2, Fire and Ice.
right.
right, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
so
understand
I
it.
think they were just I think because it is technically like a story prequel, I think that the title Solomon's Key 2 is also confusing, but then Fire and Ice is just a boring title.
Yeah. According to Toon J in our patron chat, a 6-year gap, 1987 to 1993. So yeah, back in the day, how many
Okay.
people would remember Solomon's Key? So I guess they were trying to
That's true.
like change the brand in order
Rebrand
to.
it.
There's something. I mean, yeah, it ties into the core mechanics of the game. It is literally what you're doing, but I don't know. I feel like there's something more they could have done with it to just sell it better, because it is an extremely charming game. Like Rebecca said, it starts off kind of RPG-ish. Like, here's the setup. Here's what's going on. This island's in trouble. It's named Cool Mint Island. That's adorable. And you gotta.
Even the overworld with the map and the level selection reminds me of like a Super Mario World type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing to me is how open it is, because you don't have to go world 1, 2, 3, so forth. It's not linear in the way
Yeah.
that a lot of games are. Instead, it has 9 worlds available and 9 puzzles available within those, and you can do any of those in any order. What? That is insane. That is an insane amount of freedom. You can't access the 10th world or the 10th level until you finish all the others. So there is some guidance there. But if you want, you can start in any order you want. Although, very much recommended to start at level 1 if you really, it's like,
Right.
because it does ramp up.
I went in order because I only wanted the easy levels.
Yeah. Yeah. I played like the first few worlds, and I was like, yeah, like
I got up to World 4.
I hear
and
that
they
it gets
started
a lot harder, though.
introducing. They started introducing like the tubes to go through to like get to like a spot that you can't reach, and I was like, this is too much for my
Yeah.
brain. But like going based off of what you were saying, Josh, with like how you really only have like one mechanic. Like you can't
Yeah.
jump, you have like the wand, but it like does multiple things. Like it can either break up the ice, or it can like make the ice, like you can make the ice block with it. Like you can like kind of push them together and like build off of it before you slide it. And it is creative how they use that. I felt like Elsa.
It's got that Load Runner thing. I don't know if either of you have played Load Runner,
think so.
but so the thing with Load Runner is there's like you have a gun that can break blocks or create blocks, and that's how you destroy enemies. Like they'll like run into like the empty space where the block was, and then you create a block on top of them. And I got a lot of vibes from Load Runner in this game, and I loved Load Runner. I loved all versions of Load Runner. And yeah, so I don't know, I got that vibe, and it's fantastic, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing how much they can get out of that one mechanic. And I've never played Load Runner, but I have played The Adventures of Lolo, which is kind of it's a top-down puzzler where you only have a few simple mechanics where you run around, you're trying to find these items, and the items allow you to maybe shoot things on occasion, but mostly you're just pushing blocks and trying to find ways past enemies. Kind of different, but it's also kind of giving me the same vibe where you're just trying to do this, because the goal of this is to just put out all the fires using the ice. But if you attach your ice next to you can only create the ice either off of other ice and only next to gaps that you're next to just break down the mechanics a little bit. And it's only in a horizontal line. You can't create above, you can't, create to the side, anything like that. So it's all about figuring out how to get to a higher plane, because you can only crawl up one block. And it's all about figuring out your levels and how to break loose blocks in order to take out these fires. And it can get really tricky because there's some where it's just like all over the place. And I figured out like how to get one, but it kind of traps you. So you can't get back to the other. So you got to figure out the right order in order to do them.
Yeah.
And it gets tricky. It definitely gets tricky, but it is a
and then when you get to like the end of each world, there's a boss level, and they auto scroll you up, so like you have to think quick too.
It was
So like,
scary.
yeah, I had like a lot of anxiety going to this. I was like, I can't figure it out.
Well, it was like if it was a static level, it would be the easiest thing because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that level just had like 2, maybe 3 flames to put out, and it seems like it was like so much, more at stake than, because there were other levels where you had more flames than that to put out, but it wasn't timed like that.
Yeah.
It was like everything that I learned in the past, a few levels just went out the window because now the lava is raising and I'm scared.
Right. And it sort of just repeats. And I can't remember, I didn't let it happen, but I think if you take too long and it rotates back to where it was, the fire that you put out comes back. So you have to redo it.
Yeah.
I think that's the case of it. So you have to get all.
I didn't even get that far because if it ever got to a point where it was like getting too high, I just ended it and started over.
I mean, that's the thing. You can easily hit start over at any time.
Yeah.
The time where you fight the wizard the second time, that happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny though. It's like big mean enemies like, you faced my puzzle. Oh, you defeated my puzzle. Bye. I'm not going to fight you directly, but you defeated me. Oh crap, you're good. I'm out of here. I don't want to mess with you.
They like test you and then they don't. They just leave.
It's like a giant dragon or a giant knight and just like, you're too good. I got to go. I mean, I could probably beat you up, but nah, I don't want to risk that. It is just oddly fun. It's basic, but as Rebecca says, they do build off. They have the pipes and whatnot. And I managed to get through the first 5 worlds. Now, granted, I had to look up a few puzzles. There was a few of them where I was like, okay, how do I do this? And you see it and you're like, oh, that's the step I missed, or that's the gap that I wasn't thinking of, or this portion. Because it really is, you got to find very much later on is, how do I create a block that I can push? Because all the platforms are so close together and they just attach to each other. So you can't just have this free falling block. And that gets really tricky. But there were other times where I'm like oh, go ahead.
It's like if they made a whole game out of like the Zelda ice block puzzles, or like in Pokemon and caves, sometimes you see those ice block puzzles. It's like they made an entire game out of that, and I feel like
they got a lot of mileage out of that mechanic.
Yes, and every time I get to like that mechanic in games where it's like literally just one room in the entire game, I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna like it takes me forever to figure it out, and then like. Usually I have to look it up and I'm like, how did I not see that? And this is an entire game of that.
Yeah. It pushes you, but I did get stubborn at points. I was like, no, I know I'm close. I'm going to sit here and figure it out. And it took me a while, but I did figure it out, which does feel very satisfying in its way. So I'm cool about that. And I didn't get to do much of it, but when I did try out the first level of World 6, and it's introduced fire barrels, where it actually starts out as like ice barrels, but if you drop a flame guy in there, which you sometimes have to do in order to progress, it becomes a fire barrel, and any ice that drops on top of that just gets melted. So you have to work around those, and that's how like they bring in extra gimmicks with each one. And I'm kind of curious just how many more ideas they come up with. Again, it's impressive how they take this one core idea and just make it work.
There's also
they really had to do that in like the NES days where maybe they didn't have room for a lot of assets, or they really had to take a core idea. There's only 2 buttons to press on the NES controller. We really have to stretch that and see how far we can go with it because our options are so limited with this hardware.
Yeah. And they push it even further too, because I didn't get this far obviously, but there is like a whole post game that you unlock that is like an extra. I think it's like there's 100 courses total in the main game, and then there's another 50 after the end game.
yeah,
I think
it's,
that's how that goes.
I think I remember reading that
Yes.
before, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
like holy crap. And you can, and as we mentioned before, you can create your own levels. I didn't bother with that feature because I'm like, I'm not smart enough to make my own level. I'm not doing that.
Right.
I'm just
Since you can't
trying to
even
figure it out.
save them, like it
No,
sounds like it's just tinkering around with it.
pretty much. You could
Yep.
save it in the
I feel
Japanese
like
version because it had save data, but we're working with passwords here, so oh well.
yeah.
Yeah.
How cool would it be for, Switch? This is Nintendo Switch Online that we're all playing off of. How cool would it be if you could, make your level and then let the people on your friends list be able to play that level?
Yeah,
Ooh.
that'd be cool.
There's
That'd
no
be
way they
cool.
would go back and develop that, let's be real.
No,
But
it
like,
does. I
it's
don't
like a
think
dream.
Fire and Ice has the pull for something like that. And,
But if that
What?
game were developed today, I could definitely see that happening.
true.
I love level builders in games. I've always
Mhm.
loved that. So it's really cool that this game has that. And I feel like that was very uncommon at the time. I mean, there's not much you can there's not as much you can do with those NES games, and there was very few games that did that back then. And so it's cool that that was even a feature at all.
Yeah, and I gotta say, graphically, this game is pretty great on NES. There's a lot
Yeah.
of very smooth motion movements for Dana, our main character, who is a guy.
I was so mad. Me and Derrick were talking about this before, about how last week when we were talking about it and I was looking it up and I'm like, oh, Dana, like, we're playing as a girl. Like, how progressive for 1993.
Oh
And I
no.
even looked at the art. I'm like, wow, like, she has long hair. She kind of looks like Link.
She's
And,
like a
like,
little witch.
Yeah,
yeah, she's a little witch. That's
cute
what I
little
thought.
witch.
And then I found out later that that Dana's a boy, and I didn't know that Dana could be a boy's name.
I
And
didn't
I'm like,
either.
oh, okay.
We're all learning
It's like
something new today.
reverse Samus. Everyone thinks that I'm playing as this bounty hunter Samus, who's this dude, and then you find out that she's a girl, and that was the opposite for me. Oh, boy.
Oh well.
Disappointment.
What it's a shame, but yeah, the climbing animations, the way you do that, I feel bad for Dana when you for when now I'm saying her when you toss him in a fire, like when he lands in fire, he has this like bug out voice and it's a horrible sound. I'm like, oh gosh,
Oh yeah, Dana Carvey.
oh
Dana
yeah, I never
Carvey
thought about
exists.
Dana Carvey.
We love
Wait.
Dana Carvey.
Oh yeah, that is a guy named Dana.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
huh?
even think about that.
Anyway.
Well, there we go. But yeah, there's a lot of funny animations, and a lot of times when I was looking at puzzles, if you let them sit there for a while, they'll actually go to sleep. The hat falls down, they can see the Z's coming up, and they'll just. It's a lot of fun animations, and I think they get away with that because the levels themselves are very, very simple. Like this level might be tree themed, this one might be mountain themed. You're still kind of surrounded by just basic colored blocks all along all the outside, and then here's your puzzle set up in the middle, and it's not really all that different. Like it's very simple background art, I guess is the best way to put it. But the character art is good.
Yeah.
I liked all of the vibrant colors, especially in that opening cutscene with like the world. And the world map was pretty. I feel like I was just looking at all the little details.
Looks like a theme park.
Yeah.
That's what
I like
idea
the
I
style
got.
a lot.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like the actual levels themselves are pretty simple in terms of design. But like I mean everything about it looks great anyway. Like everything they did with the sprites and the animations and stuff, it all looks really good. Especially for that time. Like you look at the other games and like Mario had like all these beautiful levels or whatever, but they had some limitations with what Mario's animation was looking like, this tiny little guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like they did a lot more than a game like that with the main character and its animations and everybody and all of the mechanics and moving the ice blocks and everything looks really pretty.
Mario doesn't exactly emote.
No, he doesn't. He has like thing.
He's very
Wait,
very
that's not
stoned.
true. Maybe in the early games, but he still has the sleep animations and whatnot in like Mario 64 and Odyssey and whatnot.
Well,
True,
no,
true,
I
but
mean,
we're
like,
talking
in the
NES
NES
area.
game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I love Mario 3. Mario 3 is gorgeous, but I'm thinking to his Mario's sprite, and it's like most
Yeah.
emotes you get out of him is actually the opening cutscene where the shell pops on his head and he's messing with Luigi and all that during that whole thing. But
Or when he gets hit by an enemy and then he like like jumps up and
He's got like
falls.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, fall into a pit and he comes up and doing the whole, or squish, that
Yeah.
sort of animation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's tricky with puzzlers to go beyond it, especially because it is working off that one gimmick the entire time. Did anything else stand out about Fire and Ice for you, Rebecca?
The music. I felt like I could just like leave it on and like go do other things and just like vibe to it. It was like very like if I played a lot more of this game, those songs would get stuck in my head, like the different world songs.
Yeah. And I appreciate there's multiple songs because having played Adventures of
Yes.
Lolo, I can tell you it has one song. It's a very memorable song, but you
Oh,
get
no.
one song throughout the entirety of Adventures of Lolo, and you will get sick of it.
Yeah. I
Marble
feel like
Madness is another one where like every level has the same song and you listen to it and it's like a good song, but it's not good when you get to like the 7th level.
Yeah. I feel like if you have a lengthy game, you need to have something like that to change it up. But yeah, no, they're cute. The tunes are cute.
Yeah. It's
They remind me, honestly, the music reminds me of like a lot of Game Boy games that I used to play.
oh.
It reminds me of like some Game Boy cover, like this is so weird. It reminds me of the Hamtaro games,
Oh my
Oh.
gosh, wait. Yes.
which has cute
I've
music.
not
and
played those, so
It
Wait,
reminds
they're
me of the
really good.
Hamtaro games.
They're so good. I'm gonna have to like go back and listen to this music and like think about that because oh my gosh, Derek, you
Yeah.
gotta play the Hamtaro games.
They're adorable, honestly.
weren't they like produced at the very least by Nintendo?
Yes, they were published by
Yeah.
Nintendo. Miyamoto worked
Yep.
on them.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
He directed them, I think.
Oh,
that's kind of wild,
wow,
right?
that's
They ended up
very
being really
weird.
good. Like the Game Boy Color one is the one that I remember playing the most, but there's also one on the Game Boy Advance that was really good too.
I played the one on the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, nice. So yeah, I'm trying to
But
look
yeah.
and see if there's any kind of any what else got introduced later on, but they it honestly just talks about the ice block, the jar. I think the jar is like the last thing, and they just sort of mix it up after that point.
Yeah, I've got this video up that's like a long play of like the whole game, and I keep skipping through it looking like, is there other things that they do? No, they really do like hammer this one mechanic home the entire time, which honestly, like, I feel like might get a little stale at some point, depending on how well they craft some of these puzzles. Like, I'm sure that at some point, like, the I mean, I don't know, like how much can they really do with the one mechanic? But I guess they did it with like 150 different levels.
I guess.
I want to know what the other boss levels are like because the 4 that I did, 2 of them were like the timed, lava rising thing. One was where the flames were moving back and forth, and one where the flames were moving up and down.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know
yeah.
if you did another one, Derek. If you because
No,
said
it
you got
was
to the
it
fifth
was
world, or
it was
yeah.
just the moving flames or the rising lava that you had to avoid. Don't know about level 6, but I have to assume it's probably just a variation between those two.
maybe yeah.
And I didn't find the moving ones to be too bad because as soon as you push the block off, wherever they were, it would just pause. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
Thank God for NSO though, because I took a look at the passwords that you had to write down, and there were like I think 16 to 20 character passwords that you have to write down each time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And I
That's
never
wild.
chose exit whenever I paused the game. It was because you had to start over and exit. So I'm like, I don't know what that does exactly. But you have to say you're done with the game, because if you just turn it off, you don't get the password. You have to get to the grand mall in order to get the password so you can actually pick up where you left off. So I think the save system is kind of unforgiving in a way.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a very
I
odd
just use
one.
save states, honestly.
Yeah, the save states are nice. Like, okay, I got this far, save. It's like there's not a real
Yeah.
difference. It's just more convenient. I'm just thinking into the original ideas. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
that is a little
You had to do it.
tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a surprisingly it's simple, but it's charming. There's like not a whole lot to it, but it's charming.
Yeah. Oh, the Toon J provides an example of a password in the live audience chat, and yeah, that's about it. There you go.
And there could be like periods in it.
What's that?
If you like messed up one like if you were writing this down, and especially with like some of the fonts on like, you know, these pixel fonts that you might like not get that the S is like an S, it could look like a 5, or like you missed that period in there, like I don't know, that's like that's a lot
huge
for a
barrier.
password.
Yeah, it's
a huge
it's
barrier
easy to
getting
mix
people into it.
mess it up, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
So when are we getting Solomon's Key 3?
That's a good question. I don't know if we got it on Solomon's Key 3. Here's the interesting thing that I also did not realize. This game is relatively rare because I'm so used to stuff on NSO being like, all right, it's the third time we've gotten this. It was on Virtual Console and all that stuff. It's like, all right, sure. And no, this is the first time it's ever been re-released since the NES.
That's wild.
You
That's
just
cool.
prompted me to look for it on eBay. Like they start at like $200.
I'm seeing one here that's saying $40, but I'm also like I'm not sure.
To be
if
fair,
yeah.
To be fair, nobody's bid on these. I should look at like ones that have sold.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sold items. Nope, 219.
Ooh. Don't trust the $40 link. Oh, it's
on October
it's Etsy.
17th.
That's why it's messed up like that, because it's reproduction.
They're probably repros.
Yeah, repro.
In September, in 199, 164.
Yeah.
So a complete in box one is 350.
Ooh, yeah. This is a rare game because it is late NES. I think like Kirby's Adventure was one of the last NES games to be released, and let's see, this came out in March 93 in North America. Kirby's Adventure came out in May 93. So it was just a few months before Kirby's Adventure. So it was really was that last hurrah for the system. So that's why they were able to get some good graphics out of it. But it's also like everybody kind of moved on to the Super Nintendo at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So.
And by that time, there were probably some decent puzzle games on the Super Nintendo.
I would hope.
A lot of the Super Nintendo puzzle games were like more along the lines of like wasn't there like a Pokemon Puzzle League on the Super Nintendo, or am I thinking the NES still?
That's N64 for Pokemon Puzzle League.
Yeah, you're thinking.
We got same type of the same game, Tetris Attack.
Tetris Attack, yeah, Tetris. That's true. Yeah, so there's a lot of games like that, but trying to think of any other Super Nintendo puzzle games. I'm honestly not super familiar with a lot of the Super Nintendo library.
I'm not either, other than the typical ones like your Tetris Attacks, your Puyo Puyo, your Yoshi's Cookie, and the what is it, Mario? What was the Wario's Woods? That's what I was thinking of.
Wario's Woods, yeah. Well, wasn't Kirby's Avalanche, which I've never heard of.
That's Kirby Puyo Puyo.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Is it? Yeah, okay.
I believe that's the infamous one because it's the one where Kirby actually talks and is kind of a jerk. Because there's an infamous line where Wispy Woods is like, "Please don't step on my my roots," and Kirby's like, "No," and steps on his roots. It's just kind of a jerk. It's funny in that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, a kind of a rare gem that it's. I think that's something NSO has kind of focused on a bit, is we're trying to get those games that have not been re-released as much on there. We get some of the typical ones, but surprisingly enough, for as much as Urban Champion got re-released on everything, Urban Champion's not on here, but we got some other odd ones that don't get talked about as much. Does that bring people to it? Maybe not, because they see it and it's like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
But it is worth playing. So
yeah. And I do appreciate it, because I feel like it, I think we talked about this before, but back when we did have Virtual Console, I would never buy Fire and Ice for $7.99 or whatever it was, ever. But the fact that it is on NSO, I do get to try it out and play it, and I wouldn't have that chance.
Yeah.
I think that's the value of it, like trying out stuff that you've never heard of before. Yeah. I mean, I took a chance on Solomon's Key on the Wii Virtual Console, and I enjoyed the hell out of that. So, But like, not everybody's going to spend the $5 to $7 to get these classic games that they've never heard of.
Yeah, they stick with the classics, or the one that they got that word of mouth that you missed out on the first time around. And Fire and Ice definitely does not have that word of mouth.
It gives new life to these games. That's cool.
Yeah, very much so. But do we have anything else we want to say about Fire and Ice before we give our final verdict?
I think we covered pretty much.
I don't know that there's much more to
I
talk
don't.
about.
I don't think so either. I think we've kind of hit the limit. It's a puzzler. What do you expect? It's kind of that.
It's a puzzler with one mechanic.
Yeah, one mechanic that kind of gets iterated on.
That one mechanic.
It does a ton with that one
You gotta give
mechanic.
it credit for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They came up with some ideas, but yeah. So yeah. Would you let's just finalize this. I think I know the answers, but would you recommend it as an NSO or tell people to stay away with an NO? Josh, let's start with you.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to give it a go. Try something that you've never heard of before. That's what we're doing here. That's what the whole point of this is. And it was a lot of fun, actually. So, and especially if you like puzzle games.
Yeah. What about you, Rebecca?
Yes, definitely yes. I think it's very high quality for the NES and what it is. There are definitely many worse games out there, many worse puzzle games out there. I think if you're afraid of puzzle games like me, you don't have to play this one. It's okay. There's easier puzzle games out there. But definitely not trash. It is a good game.
Yeah. And same for me. I mean, I've had some NSOs where it's like, yeah, it's fine because, you're already paying for NSO. It doesn't take anything out. It's not like a nightmare to play or anything like that. But no, this is a bit more than that, where it's like, if you're into puzzlers, if you're interested in the core concept, it is well worth checking out, giving it a look, and trying it. And I believe it is fundamentally different from the original Solomon's Key. Solomon's Key has a different gimmick to it than this Fire and Ice mechanic. So it's cool that it's fundamentally different. They just found a new way to take the core idea and expand upon it. And it's just a very charming game that will test you. It will get tough.
Yeah.
but it's one of those things like, I'll pop it in and play a few levels and see how I do. And, I wouldn't like marathon through the whole thing, but as something to come back to on occasion, it's good for that. It's a good time. And what about all of you? Have you played Fire and Ice before, or was this your first time? But before we go, where can everyone find you at? Rebecca, let's start with you. Plug away.
You can find me at Forest Minish on Twitter and Twitch. I'm trying to stream more. I have some exciting things that I'm going to be doing on my stream in the coming weeks, so come check that out. And just talk to me about video games. I really like them. Absolutely.
Can't recommend her enough. And Josh, where can everyone find you at?
I can be found at Josh Jepson on YouTube and Twitch and all over the other places on the internet. I try to stream about 5 days a week, and I play a lot of platformers and like Zelda. I play a lot of Zelda. Right now I'm in a weird spot because I'm like traveling a lot right now. So, if you come by my stream and I'm not there, that's why. But, once we hit December, I'm going to be back rolling with it. So yeah, come on by, hang out with me. We'll do some fun games. I play a lot of like multiplayer games too, like Splatoon and Mario Kart. I do a lot of streams with viewers or whatever. So
nice.
Come by for some of that stuff.
Yeah,
we have a laugh.
Absolutely. And I appreciate both of you for joining me, and it really does mean a lot. Always glad to have you guys on. And hey, if all you lovely viewers enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments, and please consider supporting us at patreon.com/gvgaming, which includes our live audience tier that will allow you to watch Game Club live as it's being recorded. But even just subscribing and hitting that bell helps us a ton. But now it's time for the Wheel of Games to choose next week's title, as I'm joined by my special guests, Brandon Bovia and Jenny Geist. Are you both ready to see what game we're playing?
Let's do it.
You ready for fate to take the wheel?
At this point, just see
let
where
it
things
happen.
take us.
All right. Let's bring up the wheel. Give it a spin. What game are we playing this week? It is going to be Yoshi for for the NES.
Can we get a reroll? Okay. All right. Fine, whatever. This is fine.
Time for another puzzler. So
Yeah.
there you have it. We'll see you next time as we cover Yoshi for the NES. And real quick mention, it'll be 2 weeks because Thanksgiving is next week and we're not recording to Thanksgiving. So we got 2 weeks to play this game.
Oh, joy.
All I'm going to be playing, I'm going to uninstall Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Although,
I'm
wait,
gonna
isn't
not pick up Mario RPG? Just Yoshi.
Yep. Just
Am
Yoshi.
I thinking of a different one, or is this the one made by Game Freak, or am I
I
tripping?
don't remember. We'll check that.
No, that's
when
Yoshi's
we
Cookie. That's
talk
Yoshi's
about it.
Cookie. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Never mind then. Yep.
We'll find out. But yeah, see you in 2 weeks for Yoshi on NES. Thanks for watching, and until next time,
Yep.
bye.
Bye, everybody.